5 years. We've reached the theater age. After 2 ovas and a hentai comic, it's time. The movie that took the Knights to the big screen. The movie that brought so many fans to the theater. The movie which is kinda lame. I assume someone likes this movie, and I don't blame them. The animation is prettier, and seeing a feature of your favorite franchise is something a lot of people want. I went to the movies. Me, the guy who doesn't like going out for anything. And I liked this movie when I saw it. At that time, and amid that atmosphere with fans screaming and singing the theme song together, it was a great experience. But watching it again, I must say, it isn't as good as the second. It's almost like the first one, but with better production, including having characters developed by the creator of the franchise, Masami Kurumada. Unfortunately, we've passed the climax of fun, in my opinion. A bell may be a god, but not even the sun can lessen the Nordic winter. But this is the next one, so let's see what the problems are. And remind ourselves, Atlas is awesome. No, not that one. Follow my socials. Legend of the Crimson Youth starts with a slow introduction of Fable, a sun god from before Apollo, but who's also a son of Zeus and older brother to Athena. But the movie says he was forgotten after being defeated by other gods for trying to take over Olympus. And how the old master knows something that everybody forgot, I know, but it only makes sense if you have seen the chapter of Hades. The name is already something weird, because he's Apollo in every way that counts, just with a different background, which they could have done without changing his name. It could be to connect him with the Middle Eastern god of the sun, Bel, or possibly Baal, the Canaanite god of the harvest, but it does seem more likely they're trying for the biblical Cain. And I am not just talking about his name because I'm a linguistic nerd. It is way more interesting than this opening. Abel shows up, Athena recognizes him, and they play in the water. Oh, and he gives her a flower. Amazing. The funny part is that if this had been characterization for Abel, it could have worked. He could have been kind and have been led to doing something bad, and it might have worked. The only remotely interesting thing that we see are the Corona Knights, and also that Abel can read people's hearts, including Athena's. No, they do not use this in any interesting way. It just opens plot holes. But we'll get there soon enough. The animation tries to supply what the script is lacking. For instance, the reflection of the sun opens and closes the flashback telling us about the flood, which is not the Judeo-Christian one, but you could argue it points to the Cain in the Bible. And the flashback itself is well done, as well as other scenes of destruction and the background. Except no one dies in green electricity or has to walk on a grid on this one. But it is better than everything going 3D. It's not different from a temple appearing for Ares or the Great Terror created by her. It just has more budget. And it doesn't look like it was planned to give time for the animation. No, Atlas's attack having multiple phases is planning. The first impact, generating an explosion, creates an effect that can make the audience think Atlas is awesome. The flood is like a script because if I had a god so powerful that the other gods had to join forces against him, I doubt the first thing I'd want to show was an unrelated flood. The knights get to where Athena is, being surprised by Abel and his knight's presence. But then, they discover there's someone else there. 5 gold knights! And having seen all the Knights movies, this really doesn't have the same impact it had. Yeah, the bad one too. Told you 3D would be bad. At that time, the Gold Knights having been their biggest adversaries, it makes sense that they were used, but even back then it already felt like padding, as we'll see in a moment. Athena dismisses her knights for good, Seiya can't accept that, and Atlas, the only character that gets some decent development, beats the hell out of him. And there'll be worse. Maybe it's just because he's in the middle of so many shallow authors, but he really works well, even if he's not that deep of a character. At least he's got attitude, and his hair acts weird, so he might be related to one of the 13 ghosts. Not those ones. What? Oh, we'll be right back. As a satellite goddess, Antenna relieves the Knights of Cable TV to attack from afar and be sent to the next dimension.
Another dimension!
Not that one. I know what they are trying to do, but it doesn't work. It seems they wanted to show her as brave and worrying about her warriors, but she doesn't earn that here. And they just did that in the previous movie. She stood up to Dobar, showed him he couldn't kill her because he would just start a war, and showing herself deserving of the title of Goddess of Fair Warfare, both for courage and strategy. Here, she's the younger sister, she loves her older brother, she sees he's a threat and kinda shows she wouldn't like what he's planning, and then she tries to trick a mind reader. Damn, this scene. It seems to me this was supposed to be Athena trying to trick Abel. It starts with his knights being dismissed. She sits to enjoy the music and drops Nikki as expected. But it doesn't work. She sits down when the dress hides Nikki. She grabs the handle and attacks directly, but he realizes, which makes him protect himself. This could have easily established if he had to keep a shield up or something, which would explain the ending. It would show Athena as intelligent, only failing because he can read minds. You should have concealed your anger. No, she's far from him, it's all quite slow, and there's no way to think of this as more than a pointless attempt. It raises issues for Abel too, because the tears at that moment he's attacking her can easily be missed, but the rest of his attitude can't. So that instance that justifies everything as fraternal love might be ignored, and that closeness might give the impression that Athena is kind of flirting with Abel, and that he's horny for his sister. It's quite loose because of these problems and might be seen as sincere. And when a fraternal kiss becomes a sign of necrophilic incest, you fucked up. And it's not as if the idea couldn't work. It's basically Batman v Superman.
Martha!
No, the good one. Batman knows he's weaker, creates a whole situation needed to trick a stronger guy, and even makes it possible for him to say Batman died and let him go.
Vaporized. Blown out to sea.
Yeah, even this is better. Even if it's forced, there's a chance of them believing him. He's an expert. Here, she spends time pretending she's going along with his plans. The god that reads mind doesn't know she's lying, and then she attacks out of nowhere. No opening or anything. And honestly, it looks like another case of Q5ism. She can't be aggressive. She's a girl.
You're giving me a headache.
Capricorn and Aquarius rebel, and this looks like a surprise to the mind reader too, because he doesn't order them to attack. And I remember noticing this plot hole at the time as well. Maybe Athena had been using her power or Nikki's to conceal her thoughts or something, but no, it's just poorly thought out. Cause Saga decides not to rebel so he can help Seiya raise his cosmos, but Abel doesn't order them to attack him. And from here on, it's all just fights trying to be interesting. First with the two Gold Knights being killed for revolting, which honestly is a bit too reused in the franchise. It's like gods just being able to resurrect people. Then with the Knights with the bronze armor that should have turned to gold but didn't. This might be the biggest problem. Only Atlas's attacks are well thought out, having variation in themselves and interesting uses. Berengi uses his hair, which isn't a cosmic marination. It's not even a heart. And Jao is only distinct for having the third attack with Hercules in the name, at least in Portuguese. What the hell would a shining Hellclaw even be, besides a nice example of English? We have a little reprise of the fight between Shiryu and Cancer, which the movie says lasted as long as it did because Shiryu wanted it to, and that makes some sense. The Knights of Cable TV had felt Antenna's reception going down, and he wanted to know if she had really been cancelled.
Nani?
But before he could get signatures and contact Netflix, like that's going to help. We have Shun versus Aphrodite, which basically shows Shun as weaker than ever and needing Ikki, although I will admit Aphrodite's nightmare is well done and fast. But Atlas. Saga against Seiya, which at least shows a new technique for Gemini, and if he uses another dimension without a helmet, Do those lights come out of his ears? And it does have some purpose to the story, and Zhao against Saga is less than nothing. It's just the ultimate dragon with a new coat of paint. And if anyone can do this, how would it be such a powerful technique? Then we have Hyuga versus Berengue, which maybe, kinda, if you look through the right angle and squeeze your eyes, you might say is slightly developed. He kills cameras and uses that to taunt Hyuga, but it's so shallow. He's literally immune to the ice attacks for being a Knight of the Sun, until he's not, and that's it. And since Hyuga always opened with Diamond Dust, there's no way that you could take this serious. But the movie wants you to take it seriously, that he melted that ice with his power for 3 minutes and 5 seconds. And finally we have Atlas. He isn't just shown as strong, he behaves as such and has various uses for his burning corona. And after defeating so many, he fights with all the remaining ones and is such an SOB that he has the guts to reuse this defense against the dragon exactly the same as it was against Pegasus. Actually, this is one of the few things that's better worked. Abel literally has a protecting aura of raising lines, and the same happens with Atlas and Berengue. You could even say they have this whole rhetoric of not being able to be frozen or attacked because they got the skill for serving Abel. Of course, Joe not having this clearly kinda screws that up, or maybe he would have this in his attack that we can barely see? I don't know. But yeah, to defeat Atlas, Seiya sends his inspirational message, and even without Antenna, the Knights of Cable TV receive it. Hyuga and Shiryu even signing up for the gold package that comes with free armor. Sure, the Aquarius cloth had been destroyed, but if they're going to cheat for the villain and make him indestructible, they might as well cheat a little for the heroes. And there's no way that that's not the original. Mephisto specifically comments that his cloth is the original and it doesn't leave him because Abel wills it. So, as usual, Gold Cloth heals all and makes them immediately capable of defeating Atlas. But, as amazing as it may be, they don't magically defeat Abel. Instead, they lose despite their
Vestido brilhante!
And that makes them raise their cosmos even more to the point of saving Antenna from Abel's solar flares, and she comes back to life. And if you had seen the original Open in Brazil, you would have been pissed. Then, suddenly, Seiya wants to use the golden arrow that solves everything. It even fused the zombies to dragons. Really? Using the thing that always works is a good idea. Did you like it? Because we'll be right back. And then we get to the resolution I think was supposed to have a stronger message, but doesn't due to how Abel is characterized. It's quite confusing. Abel talks about having been sent by the gods, but the old master says he rebelled against them. He might be lying, sure, but then we have this moment. Abel says he's protected by the gods and that's why he can defend himself from all attacks, until the arrow is shot and his energy aura vanishes. Did the gods not know his intentions when they sent him? Or he was just powerful and recognized he was wrong? If he sees he was wrong, all of that interaction between him and Athena makes more sense. But since at no point he talks about having doubts or about believing he's doing the right thing, it's all for naught. And that's the only way that rock of him and Athena in the end would have any significance. If he was sent by Zeus, this fits as something like Heaven's Overture. Emissaries of the gods ready to attain their goal, but then there's no reason for Abel's protection to disappear, much less a reason why he was released by the gods of Olympus. Besides, in that movie, Seiya is barely able to hit Apollo, who would have been a weaker god than the one who had to be banished. If all of these ideas had been polished like Atlas was, it might have been much better. Seiya falls happily before knowing about Abel, and then falls sadly after Athena dismisses him, and that's supposed to be an interesting duality, but I can't say anything else was as developed. A temple that was like the sun to the ones of the other gods. Except no one has mentioned or will ever mention this forbidden area. Imagine, if this god is so powerful and he wants to re-establish the Age of Gods, he could try convincing Athena to bring other gods to the earth. If you want him to be so powerful to the point that he had to be banished, maybe he wants to bring back other banished gods gods, or fallen heroes forgotten by the gods, or maybe the Titans. Just imagine a whole other generation of gods to be explored if they so wanted. Nope, 3 new knights. And that's enough, because it's plenty of work. And honestly, as empty as it is, the first movie is better. They want to use the cheesiness here and justify it as just another adventure, but it falls flat because of the lack of effort. The death of the Sulphur-Crossed Knight is way better than Jao's or Berengues, and the series would have many more interesting fights. It's the worst kind of bad. Wasted potential. I like Seiya's fight a little for the new attack and the smart attitude, but we don't get anything like that from Aphrodite, Camus, or Shura, so they seem pointless. These two more than the others are just here to be defeated and establish the servants of the sun as more powerful, which again is already a trope in the franchise, like gods bringing people back from death. No wonder Shura put a limit to this. End of the day, it's Ares without any of the excuses for lack of budget. It worked at the time, but it's not really all that worth seeing. And if you enjoyed it, please like, share with your friends, subscribe, and don't forget the bell. And since Hyuga always opens with Diamond Dust, there's no way that you could take this seriously, but the movie wants you to take it seriously. Sure, the Aquarius cloth had been destroyed, but if they're going to cheat for the villain and make him indestructible, they might as well cheat a little for the villain.